I've been enjoying Duet Night Abyss immensely so far, and I thought it would be a good idea to put out a video giving out some tips on certain things that you may not be knowledgeable of, or you might have missed, especially when it comes to some certain movement mechanics in this game. And hopefully this will be able to help out all of you, at least all of you that are able to be playing the game right now, considering the myriad of performance issues that we have had in the game thus far. Without delaying any further, first off, I would like to talk about the movement. Now, one thing that is definitely certain about the movement is that the wall hopping can be a bit janky. And by a bit, I mean very janky. This, frankly, is not really functional right now. So my big tip right here for most of you is to primarily use the helix leap and the double jump for your upward movement. And the helix leap is going to propel you in the direction based on the camera. So if you want to go straight up, you would look straight up and then press the crouch button and then fly up further. Now, you will only recharge your helix leap whenever you're on the ground. So that is something you will have to keep in mind. So if you helix leap into a wall, you won't be able to helix leap off the wall. Of course, you do actually have to hop up on the wall. In most scenarios, you won't have to worry about doing any wall jumps if with a well-used helix leap and double jump. And another thing that you can do with your movement in order to get some extra horizontal distance is to use your ranged weapon. So on mouse and keyboard, you would right click it, and reloading will also keep giving you that stuff. So you shoot and then reload and then shoot and then reload. That's going to be a really good way for you to kind of glide around the skies. There is a really valuable Genimon that you might not have encountered thus far, and this is the miraculous Bro Boxy right here. It's this little bat in a box, and this is actually a guaranteed drop Genimon if you know the correct place to get it. Now, the reason why it is very good is that it is essentially just a treasure sensor. It'll detect all Genimons and chests within 100 meters every 30 seconds. Additionally, it'll also increase your auto pickup, XP gain, and give an additional chance to drop bonus loot when defeating enemies. So where you're going to want to go is you're going to want to go to the sewers, and the entrance you're going to want to look for is right here in Ice Lake. So you're going to walk straight into the sewers and it'll load you into the next zone. And from this entrance right here, you will essentially just walk past this room and go through this right here, and this little alcove right here will be a chest. You'll open the chest, a few enemies will spawn around here, you'll defeat them, and then you will get Bro Boxy as a guaranteed drop. So this will definitely be really useful, especially when you're early on trying to find all the chests, because the chests actually do give you trial XP. So now I know that there is a chest over there, which is behind that doorway. I haven't opened it yet, but I'll probably figure out how to later. I have a pretty good tip about it, and most of it is just going to be not to sweat too hard on the trial XP while you're starting out. I'd say focus on story progression primarily, as there aren't really any scenarios in the story thus far, as I've experienced, where you really need an upgraded character. The enemies have been, frankly, a bit too easy to clear out in the story content. Maybe that'll be something they adjust in the future, but for the time being, that means that you can kind of just use whatever you want. You don't really have to concern yourself too much with the trial XP until later, and by that time, you will get a lot more trial XP from daily quests, from your main story and side stories, and from opening up chests in the overworld with the Bro Boxy that I talked about before. Of course, there are other things, such as unlocking characters, ascending characters, and the same exact for the weapons and the Genimons. If you are at a certain threshold where you're about to level up, ascending a character or weapon would give you that level up. That might be something good to go for, because there are some pretty potent buffs that you can get from the trial rank, and they will also unlock secret letters. So if there is a character that you just really want, and it's like that right next one right there, so I mean, if I really want a Rebecca, I could go into my character menu, send 2 characters, and then I'd be able to get the secret letters for Rebecca. Now, another thing that you might want to consider doing in the early game is saving your commission manuals. What these are essentially just some resources that you can spend before you go into a mission in order to essentially multiply, well, not essentially, literally multiply all of the drops from the mission. So it'll speed up your grind a bit if you use them, and you do actually get a lot of these green manuals. I believe it's 15 per day or more from your dailies, so they are rather plentiful, which does kind of like act as a sort of energy system for the more casual players. So you can get those manuals and use them to essentially speed up your daily activities or whatever else you're doing and get more materials out of these missions. But something to mention is that each tier of these will give you more rewards, and because you'll be getting a lot of trial XP from story progression, from unlocking characters, which you'll get from story, from unlocking weapons that you'll get from story, exploration, so on and so forth, you'll likely get to higher trial levels and tiers before you would actually need to spend any of those resources that you would want from these commissions. But I wouldn't sweat too hard on it. Again, these do seem to be pretty plentiful, and I don't imagine the gap between like the tier 6 and the tier 7 is going to be super big in terms of rewards. And when we're talking about the materials themselves, you can actually very easily find the source for every single material that you could need in this game. So if I wanted to ascend her skill, like her passive right here, I would need more filtered clots, and this states it'll be dropped by an enemy, but will directly be dropped from the commission relocation. So I can just click this right here, it'll instantly bring me to the correct mission for me to tackle, and I can go ahead and challenge it to get the drops that I need, and this will function for every single type of resource in this game, whether it's weapons, characters, anything and everything. And this also can be useful for the forge, where it can show you certain materials and where you can get them. So for instance, gold sand is going to be a very useful item for a lot of these different forge materials, so it would be a good idea to stock up on a decent portion of this stuff. That is definitely something to look out for. But another thing, and one of the reasons why I said the gold sand specifically, and I guess also the repulsive crystals, is that that's the main way that you'll be getting D10 dice, and these D10 dice are going to be very useful because they are not only used to re-roll impression checks to unlock side quests and potentially in the main story in the future, but primarily for side quests, but you will also use these for your impression shop. So this right here, it'll essentially just be a impression check right here based on the type of stat that you have, and there will be certain items that are locked behind a higher level impression, and you'll be getting these impressions leveled up by doing certain dialogue options inside of story quests and side quests. And there will also be some random quests that will open up every now and then out in the overworld that you'll be able to complete and get a smaller increase to your impressions. But you need to spend these dice here in order to get the materials and items from these shops. So you just do a quick impression check, your stuff gets added together, and if you complete the check successfully, you'll get the item from here. And you can use this to get some secret letter clues, some cosmetics, the music stuff for your room, other character cosmetics, and character materials such as ascension materials. So early on you could get some of these, like the azure pearls, the lightning rods, and I actually got the lens of enlightenment for the character that I was using in order to not have to go into a mission and get that early ascension pretty effortlessly. There are some additional advantages to increasing your impression levels resource-wise as well. Another thing to mention that I'm not sure if I've seen anybody talk about is the team presets, and you can save 10 loadouts, and what this would be your character, 2 weapons, specific Genimon, and the 2 combat partners with their weapons. and you'll be able to save 10 of these. So if you have a certain setup that you are really liking thus far, you can go ahead and save it here so that you have access to it in the future. And you can also match a certain backpack preset to go with it. One final quick tip is going to be about the battle pass, and right now I'd say the battle pass probably won't be something that you have to concern yourself too much with unless you're just like really into the cosmetics. It's primarily for the cosmetics, in my opinion. You will get some extra rewards, such as some more commission manuals, some more XP for your characters and your weapons and your demon wedges. All of those character and weapon level ups materials are farmable in-game, and the commission manuals are just to give you some extra bonus drops. So it would be something that it'll help you like get ahead faster. Maybe you don't have to farm as much for these materials in the future. It's not something that you have to sweat about, because the primary reason you'd be purchasing this are for the banner pulls and the other cosmetics that are in this battle pass. That about does it for these quick tips for Duet Night Abyss. I thought it would be best to keep this video brief. We're still pretty early on, and we don't really have the absolute best grasp on all of the mechanics, how good all of the characters are going to be, and especially with how easy this early game progression is, it's also not something you have to concern yourself with too much. If I had to add one more tip on this, it would be to not push yourself too much, not to burn yourself out, because if you're playing this game, you want to be in it for the long haul, and the last thing you want to do is burn yourself out way too early and feel like getting on is going to be a huge struggle, at least after, of course, all of the optimization issues are fixed. I'd say go ahead, take your time right now, focus on having fun, exploring, and not sweating too much on meta stuff or what's the quote best option to do. With that all out of the way, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you're enjoying my coverage of Duet Night Abyss and would like to see more in the future, be sure to subscribe to my channel to not miss a single video on this game. If any of these tips helped you out, be sure to let me know exactly which one it was in the comments down below. Also, if there are any extra tips that you think would be nice to cover that I didn't mention in this video, be sure to let me know in the comments as well, and I can pin it or help disperse that information elsewhere. But with that all out of the way, I'm going to thank you all again so much for watching, and as always, I will see you all next time.